Hi, it's Steve. Today we'd like to show you how to change the door bellows on your front load washer. Over time, mold or mildew may form on the bellows, or it may be cut and cause a leak. It's a really easy job to change it. Let me show you how we do it. Now before we begin this repair, the first thing we'll need to do is to disconnect power to the washer. And we'll also want to pull it forward enough so that we can access the back to remove the top. Now to remove the top, there are 3 screws across the back. On this particular model, they are a number 20 Torx head screw. So remove all of those and then just pull the panel back about a ½ inch. That will disengage the front of it from the console. Then you can lift it off and we'll set that aside. Next we'll pull open the detergent dispenser drawer and just push down on the little release tab over on the left side there so that we can pull it all the way out and set that aside. Now there's 1 screw on the far left here. Again, it's a number 20 Torx. Just remove that. Now, to remove that console, there are some clips on the top that just fit down into this nylon piece, as well as 1 little tab over on the far right-hand side. So what we need to do is just lift up on the top edge of that control panel to disengage those clips. Reach inside. Just carefully depress that tab. You can then open the door. There's a little slotted opening right in the center at the very back. You may be able to lift up on that console enough to disengage it. If not, just take a flat blade screwdriver, insert it into that opening to release the tab. Then we can lift the console away. There should be enough harness there that we can just lay it on top of the washer. Now next we'll remove 3 screws that secure the door latch to the front panel. We'll set those aside. Now there are also 3 more screws across the very bottom that secure the lower access panel. Now to remove that lower access panel, we need to take these 3 screws out. And just support that panel as you remove the last screw. Let the panel drop down. And just support that panel as you remove the last screw. And let it drop down. You can remove that and set it aside. Now next we need to release the door bellows from the front panel. And there is a wire band that goes all the way around that to hold it in place. There's a spring on the very bottom. So using a flat blade screwdriver, just go into the loop on the end of that spring. So we have a nice firm fit on that. Or use a pair of needle nose pliers. We'll stretch that spring enough that we can pull that wire out of the opening, remove it, and set it aside. You can then peel that bellows away from the front panel and just tuck it in behind. Just push the door latch away from the front panel at the same time. We can close that door up. And then we'll remove 2 screws in the very bottom. Now all that is remaining are 2 more screws in the top corners. So just support that front panel as you remove those 2 screws. And we'll tilt that panel out at the bottom. Just let it drop down behind that bracket. And then we can remove the whole assembly and set it aside. In this model, we need to remove that fill hose from the top. Just pull it off of the nozzle that sprays inside of the tub. We'll next need to remove that as well because we will be reusing it. So we'll just push the nozzle through the plastic washer. Also peel the bellows away from the soap injector tube. I'm going to lift that door latch assembly off of its holder and set that aside. And there is a band clamp that holds the bellows to the outer tub. Just need to loosen that. We'll set that aside for use later. And now we're ready to pull the bellows off of the outer tub. Now before we remove that bellows, I'm just going to lift that door lock assembly off of its holder so it'll remain out of the way. Then just grab any portion and peel it away all the way around the edge. And then we can discard it. Now before we put the new bellows in place, we'll want to clean that lip around the edge of the outer tub so that we get a nice tight fit with the new one. And we've cleaned up the edge of the outer tub here. And you've probably noticed that this tub is damaged beyond repair, but we're going to put the bellows on to show you the procedure anyways. Now when installing it, we do need to make sure that this portion of that bellows sits outside of that lip on the outer tub. There's a little groove in that outer lip that will match the groove in the bellows. Also need to make sure that we line up this little indicator tab in the 12 o'clock position, which is right where there is a bolt that secures the counterweight. So we'll start by positioning that and hold it in place while we go around the perimeter and fit the bellows over that lip. Just continue to go around the whole perimeter of that bellows. Now when it's properly fitted, that lip on the edge of the bellows should lay against the tub. With that in place, we'll next install the clamp. Again, we need to make sure that we have that clamp inside that outer rib and rotate it so that we can easily access the adjustment screw. And as we tighten it, just do a visual check, make sure that it didn't slip out of place. And then tighten it securely. Our next step is to fit the bellows onto the soapbox feed tube. If need be, you can just moisten the inside of that and it will slide onto that plastic tube easier. sure we don't have an extra fold in it. And bring it up to these little plastic stops that indicate that it is on fully. And then on the door opening side, make sure that we pull that around so that it's pointed into the tub. Next we'll put the spray nozzle into that bellows. We'll put the square portion towards the front. Push it in so that it's flush on the inside. We'll take that plastic lock washer, snap that down over those two little spines, and that will hold it in place. And we'll fit the rubber tube onto it. And then reposition our door latch assembly. And now we can install the front panel. Now when we go to reinstall that front panel and door assembly, you'll note that there are a couple little projections down on the lower side of those two flanges, and those will fit into these little square holes. And that will help support that panel as we attach it. So we're going to tuck the two ears in on the top, fit those under that reinforcement panel, and as long as we hold that to the front of the washer, it won't drop down. Install the retaining screws and the two across the bottom. And next, open up the door. And then we'll line up that door lock assembly. Make sure both the door switch and the latch mechanism fit through the respective openings. And then we'll reinstall those screws. And then we'll pull the outer lip of that bellows out through the door opening. And if you look carefully at that lip, you'll note that there's a V-shaped groove right at the very edge of it. And that's what's going to fit down into the flange on the front panel. Just go all the way around the edges, pull that into place. Now when it's properly seated, that outer edge should lay flat against the front panel. Now we're ready to reinstall that clamp. So we're going to position it so that the spring will be in the 6 o'clock position. Make sure the wire fits down into that groove. Now the safest method for reinstalling that is to take a pair of needle nose pliers, and we're just going to grasp that hook on the wire portion of that, so that we're actually pulling the spring. Get the wire around as far as it will go, and we'll stretch that spring. Tuck the wire in the rest of the way, and it's secure. Next we'll put the lower access panel in place. Now if your washer is sitting on the floor, you may wish to tilt it back some to access those 3 screws because they're fairly close to the floor. So we'll center that panel and we'll tuck the lip in behind the front panel. Lift it up as far as it will go. Now the center one sometimes is a little tight to get in there, so you may need to push up on that panel as you install the screw. And once we have that in place, we'll put the control panel back on. We're going to position it so that this clip fits into that little rectangular opening on that support panel. And the plastic clip on the right hand side lines up with the slotted opening here. Now with it properly centered, just press in on the top and those clips will engage. Then we'll put the screw in on the left side. And then reinstall the detergent drawer. And then the main top. Now when reinstalling the main top, we need to make sure that we engage these 4 little plastic tabs, these slotted openings on the front edge of that top panel. So we'll lay the panel down flush, put a 1/2 inch gap back from the edge of that control panel, slide it forward so those engage, and then we can install the screws at the back. And reinstall the 3 retaining screws. We're now ready to push the washer back into position, reconnect the power, and our repair is complete.